Okay, so in this next video, we're going to look at how it is we can make it so that we can paint on other textures. And we'll do that first, and then we'll start looking at, how we can make some of these textures look a little bit better. So we're going to open up in here. So as you can see, biggest problem here is if I was to move these up here, move these across actually, and then bring in some of the other textures. So let's say we want to go with our rock wall here. So I'm going to hold down Shift to select all of those and then drag them into here. So the problem is that I can only plug in one input at a time into this material as it is right now. So if I go here to my other color and I try to plug this in, then it will just override that grass texture. And it'll look a little bit weird because it's still got the roughness and normal of the grass, but the texture of the rock, which will just be a little bit weird. So how do we fix this? If you hold down Alt and left click, we can disconnect those, and we'll just disconnect all of these in fact, and we'll start talking about how we're going to go about doing this. So the first thing is we need in here what's known as a landscape layer blend. So I'm just going to type in, so if you right click on here, it brings up this search menu. We're just going to type in landscape, and we'll be using a lot of these different ones here. But the one we're using right now is the landscape layer blend. We're going to left click on that, and it's going to bring up this node here. This node, unfortunately, we can't plug anything into it because it has no inputs at the moment. So first we need to decide, okay, how many layers are we going to have? So I said before, we're going to do a grass, a rock, and a dirt layer. So in order to create more inputs, over here on the left-hand side, under details, we're going to click on this little button here, and that's going to add an element. So we're going to do that 3 times. So we have 3 elements. We're going to left click on this little arrow here, and then where it says layer name, just going to click on here, and we're just going to type in grass, because that's going to be our first layer. Then we're going to go down to the second layer, and we're going to call this one rock, and then the last layer we're going to call dirt, just like that. Now again, you're probably noticing that we've still got the same problem we had before, where we can't really get more than one input in here. So what we kind of need is almost something like this that can go here to have all the material and then plug into here and then do the same for one down here. So we've almost got to do a bit of inception here where we have a material inside a material. Now thankfully Unreal has that. So we're just going to right click on here, and then we're going to type make material. And it's right here, make material attributes. So now you can see this is exactly like this one over here. We can just left click it into here, and what it does really nicely in fact is it takes all of these and reduces it down to one node. So we can just do that. So we're going to do the same thing again, go down here, make material attributes, and then we're just going to plug these into each of them, the purple into normal and the roughness into roughness. I'm just going to tidy this up a bit like so, and then this one is going to go into here. And then if we plug this one into here, we now have all of that in there. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, but hang on a second. We've got all of these sort of different textures here like roughness and normal, and then it's only going into the base color. And the problem with doing that is we will get the colors, but we won't get the normals and the roughness maps, which we know are quite vital to making things look better. So I'll just show you how to paint it first, and then we'll come back to how do we fix this part here. So I'm going to minimize this, and you'll have noticed straight away that because we've got 2 different inputs here, it doesn't really know what to do with either of them. So it's just basically gone into this weird sort of neutral color here. So we're going to go here to paint. Now if you're using an earlier version, this icon is probably going to be over here, and there'll be one just in there under there where it's paint, and they'll get you to the same menu here. So we can see now we have these menus here, but it doesn't know how to paint. And if we try to paint it, it'll say this layer has no layer info assigned to it yet, and you must create or assign a layer info before you can paint this layer. So the way we do that is we just go here, create, and we're going to go weight blended normal. We're going to put this into landscape, go OK. It says it already exists, and that's because I've done this tutorial a number of times. So I'm going to just try and put it into a different one so that it doesn't clash with that. You shouldn't have that problem if you're doing this for the first time. And then we're going to go to here and do the same thing. So landscape in there, cool. So we can see these 2 have just generated here. So we've got our grass texture back, right? So now if we click here on rock, and I'm just going to make this brush a little bit smaller, and I left click and drag, it's going to freak out for a little bit as it thinks about this, and then once it's finished thinking about that and it's compiling the rest of the shaders here, it'll do that. And so now I have the ability to be able to paint in paths. I can use that rock texture on the sides of these cliffs here to make them look a little bit more realistic. And the good thing about it is that I can actually change the tool strength as well. So I can just sort of paint in patchy bits of grass there to sort of act as moss and stuff. Okay, so yeah, that's so just to go through that again. If I come back here, all I have to do to create another layer of this, I could even copy this, Control C, Control V, and then just swap out these textures. So I'm going to put in a dry grass and have that down here, have the roughness there and the normal here, plug those in. Make sure they are what we think they are, and then I just plug this up into here, and I can always add more if I wanted to. And the truth is that when it comes to landscapes, the best way to make it look more realistic is by having more textures and everything. So if you've got more and you can get more, like I said, from that website, they're all free, you might as well just to try and experiment and see which ones go there. Now just a quick note as well, if you go here down to where it says sampler source from text to asset, this can be quite memory intensive. So if we change this to shared wrap, that will just help make this whole process just a bit quicker. So it's a small little thing. It just means that instead of taking it from the text to asset every single time, it just shares that data a little bit better so that it's not a huge issue. And because we're not making any changes to the text to asset, like we're not changing it in Photoshop or Krita or anything else like that, that'll work just fine. Now I did say here before though that the problem we have is that we can't have this base color because then we can't have it go into the roughness or the normal map. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to disconnect that, and we're going to go here, and just like there is a make attributes, there is also a break. So B-R-E-K, break material attributes, and that's the one you want there. And that means that we can plug in this, and then we can separate the different channels, the color channel, the roughness channel, and the normal map. And now if we go save, that will now allow us to make sure that when we're painting on the different textures, we're also bringing in the normal maps and the roughness maps, so it still looks realistic. And that's all I really wanted to look for in this video, and just get people to start painting and just getting a feel for that. Whether you're doing terrains or whether later on you start doing character modeling, learning how to sculpt and paint is a very useful skill, so I would highly recommend it. Just remember, whenever you create a new layer here, you've also got to then go ahead and create a new info set there, layer info set, so just be aware of that. But you'll notice as well that even though I've added something new and changed a few things, it's still kept that painting data here, which is really good and really important. And as you can see, we've got that normal map there. We can see the sun bouncing off of it there and creating that. So that's all we're going to do in this lesson. When we come back, we're going to look at how we can start making these textures look a little bit better, because at the moment they're tessellating quite a lot and the eye picks up on repetition. So we're going to look at how we can fix that. So we'll see you next time.